Thank you. I know, City Clerk, that we're doing some training tonight, so please take all the time you need. Not a problem at all, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, if we could silence our phones, please, I would appreciate that. Thank you. Up here, too. Okay, let's start over again. Good evening. This is the April 1st regular meeting of the Murrieta City Council. Is here now called to order. Madam City Clerk, would you please call roll?
Councilmember DeForest. Councilmember Stone.
Present.
Councilmember Holliday.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle.
Here.
Mayor Warren.
I am here.
Let the record reflect all members are present with the exception of Councilmember DeForest with an excused absence.
Thank you so very much. I'd like to now ask everyone, if you can, to please rise and ask Patrick Ellis, CEO and President of the Murrieta Wildemar Chamber of Commerce, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And please remain standing. We'll have our invocation following.
Thank you. Hands over heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I could please ask Shane Academia, Middle School Director with the Calvary Murrieta Church, to come forward.
Let's bow our heads together. Dear wise and loving Father, thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many abundant blessings, and thank you for the life that you've given us. Thank you for the desire to fulfill our callings, for provision and for friendship, and thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thank you for the freedom you've given us. And also, we thank you for your great love from your boundless and gracious nature. In your word, you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, since you've established those authorities to promote peace, order, and justice. Therefore, I pray for the mayor, the various levels of city officials, and in particular, this assembled council. I'm asking that you grant them wisdom and discernment to govern amidst interests and issues of our times. I ask that you give us awareness to the needs of the people, a thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, unity to work in harmony, personal peace in their lives, and joy in their tasks. And lastly, I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give them an assurance and peace of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beautiful city of Murrieta. In your holy name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Madam City Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Due to an unforeseen circumstance, the Kaiser Permanente team is unable to join us at this meeting. They will provide the presentation at a future meeting.
Thank you. At this time, we have a proclamation for the DMV Donative Life California Month. Madam City Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have Erica Hranek, One Legacy Ambassador.
Welcome. There's that pig.
I know.
I just love that pig.
You know I have to.
I know.
Do you want to read the proclamation or just go ahead and?
I'm going to let you go ahead and speak, and then I'm going to do that after you're finished.
Oh, okay, great. So for those who don't know, my name is Erica. I've lived in this area since 1989. I've also been a teacher in the Lake Elsinore Unified School District, primarily at Terracotta for 20 years before my retirement. I'm also a heart transplant recipient, and I'm one of your local One Legacy ambassadors. On behalf of One Legacy, which is the liaison, we're part of the Donate Life California OPO, one of the 4 OPOs. We're the liaison for transplant centers in the hospitals in 7 counties in Southern California. Alongside with our partnership with the DMV, we'd like to extend our gratitude and appreciation for the City of Murrieta for annually issuing the DMV Donate Life Month proclamation each year. Because we're seeing some incredible records happening right now. I've been doing this since 2019. So I really appreciate this because of the awareness you have raised. Donate Life is so important because it raises that a need and the benefits and the awareness of organ, eye, and tissue donation with transplantation. It saves lives. There's a lot more donor families living here. There's a lot more recipients now living here. There's also a lot more residents coming forward finding out that they need a life-saving organ. Some actually are being told that they have to be moved out of state in order to get an organ, so we'll go over the data in just a minute on that. Some are finding they need a healthy, to be healthy again with maybe an ACL surgery for knees, or maybe our cardiac patient is finding out they need a heart valve, TAVR procedure that, Temecula Valley or Loma Linda does, and that involves organ donation as well. So it's really important that we raise that awareness, because Southwest Riverside County is actually saving lives. In the middle of the PowerPoint slide, you're gonna see, I broke it down by section. So the middle slide up there is the one legacy slide of 7 counties in Southern California. There were 740 organ donors for 2024, doing 1,941 transplants. That is incredible. I mean, that's just our area, our area included. It's that tremendous, 77% increase. Nationwide, UNOS is there. It says it was 48,149 transplants nationwide. The year before was 46,000. So again, nationwide, we're making strides. But let's look at California as a whole. California did 5,261 transplants. The year before, they did 5,290 transplants. So we're actually seeing a decrease as a California as a whole. But again, our counties are showing the increase, which is truly incredible. So I appreciate that. So looking at the right-hand side, you're gonna actually see the wait list. So right now, as of today, there's 104,000 on the wait list. The year before was 103,000. But nationwide, there was 48,000 transplants. Well, if you take 100 minus, let's say 50, should only be 50 on the wait list, and it's not. So every single day, someone's being added to that list to the point where we're back to 104,000 people more. Breaking it down for California, California right now has over 23,000 people waiting. Kidney is 19,000 and liver is 2,000. So when you compare the number of transplants and those waiting, you can see why residents are being asked to move. And it's unfortunate because I do know after doing the Women's Health Expo on that last Thursday, people are coming up and telling me that they have to move because they're not gonna survive without a liver or a kidney. And it breaks my heart. So I like to continue raising that awareness. The reason why it's so important to me, because I did mention I'm a heart transplant recipient. You never know when you need it. I did not have a history of heart failure until the point where my illnesses triggered to the point where I wouldn't survive. In fact, a priest had given me my last rites. So I was in sad shape. I stroke after, invasive procedures while this is going on. So the left picture there's a little blurb of me right there. That's what I look like trying to wait for a heart. I wasn't gonna make it. But I did because they found Dylan, who was a match. And the way I understand organ donation now, I get it. But he was 19 years old, Cal Baptist University student on his way home for Eastern when he got in an accident, waiting for a tow truck, traffic backed up, truck goes down the emergency lane and hits his vehicle. He saved my life, 5 lives, and 213 other tissue samples were donated. I was actually upset when I found out it was a 19-year-old because I didn't understand. Why didn't they give it to another kid? Because I know there's a lot of children out there in need. But it's not that easy. You don't just get an organ. It has to be a match. It has to have a certain amount of antibodies, blood type, size, shape, all kinds of factors are put into it. And out of all the people on the list and me, he matched me. So had I not taken his heart, it would not have been used. So it makes sense to me now why we need more organs. And he helped me heal. He helped me get out of that wheelchair, along with my past students who came and visited from 1997 all the way up, to the point where next to it on the picture, I was able to do my first 5K at the Donate Life Run Walk last year, and behind me, the crazy lady holding the foam finger is my donor mom, Dana, with it says #1. She met me at the finish line. Considering that they didn't think I was gonna walk again, that was a big deal. And I plan to do it again this year. So I appreciate those who are a registered donor with the pink dot, because you don't know, you may not be someone's match, but you might be, like she calls me, a silver lining to a tragedy. If you're not a donor, please consider registering, because again, you don't know. I mean, 160,000 people passed away in California last year, but in our counties, only 740 donors. So I'd like to think there's a lot more matches out there that could help heal and save lives. And yes, the pig. The reason why I bring the pig every year is because I'm a teacher. I taught language arts, and like I said, I had students come and help me a lot. Well, it's probably payback for all the time that I had them. But they brought me this. It's a pig with wings. So basically, they're telling me that the impossible is possible, and that's what organ donation is all about, making the impossible possible. And I appreciate you guys helping spread that awareness and helping others maybe help pigs fly. So thank you.
You are just an incredible woman. Thank you. Now it's my honor to read this proclamation for you. And it is DMV Donate Life California Month. Whereas organ tissue, marrow, and blood donations are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expressions of compassion to those in need. And whereas more than 110,000 individuals nationwide are currently on the National Organ Transplant waiting list. And on average, 22 people die each day while waiting due to the shortage of donated organs. And whereas last year, because of the charity and generosity of people across the nation, transplant experts performed more than 48,000 organ transplants. And whereas California residents can sign up with Donate Life California Donor Registry when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID cards at the California Department of Motor Vehicles. And now there it be resolved that in recognition of National Donate Life Month, the month of April 2025 is hereby proclaimed DMV Donate Life California month in the city of Murrieta, dated this day, April 1st, 2025. And when my colleagues come down, so we may present this to you and get a picture taken. You take the picture? Or?
I'll take it. Okay. Also brought the Donate Life flag. First to hold it.
We are now going to move on to the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion and a second to approve? I have a motion by Councilmember Holliday. May I have a second by Councilmember Stone? Please cast your vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-4-0.
Thank you. City Manager, may we please have your administrative update?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. We have 3 updates for you this evening. We're going to start off with our Senior Program Manager, Brian Crawford, who's going to update you on a variety of Community Service Department capital projects. Following him, we'll have our Library Manager, Melvin Rosellis, to talk to us about National Library Week. And then last but certainly not least, our Public Information Officer, Christina Davies, will give us a community update.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being here. Mayor Warren, Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle, members of the City Council. I'm Brian Crawford, Senior Program Manager for Community Services, and I'm pleased to have the opportunity to provide you with an update on various capital construction projects we're currently working on. First, I am really fortunate to work with a great team on these important projects, and I'd like to take this opportunity to put the spotlight on several members of our team. I want to thank Public Works Inspector Richard Scott for the expertise he lends, and some of our CSD office staff, management analyst Crystal Aurora and administrative assistant Carly Chamberlain, who both do an amazing job helping me keep the financial aspects of these multiple projects straight. I truly believe we have the most success when we work together as a team. I'll start with an update on the Town Square Amphitheater parking lot and entryway monument project that has been under construction since mid-November on the north side of the park and City Hall. We're very excited to be wrapping up the substantial completion of this project in the coming weeks. The parking lot and monument are completed, and now we are finishing up the planning of landscape and waiting for the installation of electric meters from SCE to be able to power all of our wonderful new lighting and the video boards at the monument. This week, we are also applying a coat of slurry and new striping to the parking lot behind City Hall. We're planning a ribbon cutting event next to the entryway monument on April 14th at 2 p.m., and all members of the public are welcome to attend. Next, we have completed the construction of new tot lots at Monte Vista, Palomar, and Oak Terrace parks. The last park on the project, North Star Park, should be completed by the end of this month. These parks look absolutely amazing thanks to the creative vision of Leah Kolick, our Parks and Community Services Manager. We'll be holding a ribbon cutting at Monte Vista Park at 29551 Andromeda Street this coming Monday, April 7th at 9 a.m., and all members of the public are also welcome to attend this event. Next, we'll be breaking ground on the construction of a new dog park at Glen Arbor Park in the coming weeks. That construction project was approved by the City Council at the March 18th meeting. The project involves the construction of ADA-compliant switchback walkways from the top of the slope down to a separate small and large dog parks at the base of the slope with play equipment and shaded seating. We will also construct a small 12-space parking lot at the top of the slope that we will hope to provide some relief to the parking issues experienced in the adjacent neighborhood. We anticipate the project will be completed by August. In the coming months, we will bring construction contracts forward for the City Council's consideration for the installation of new programmable LED lights at the Cal Oak Sports Park tennis courts, and for the construction of new pickleball courts at Alderwood Park. Cross our fingers. Lastly, I want to let you know we are planning to take the Murrieta Children's Library expansion project out to bid in May with the intent of having a construction contract for your consideration by mid-July. That's a really important milestone on this critical project. With all these new projects, we think it's important to keep in mind that the construction market has experienced recent volatility due to a variety of factors such as inflation, long lead time on critical components, and more recently, the uncertainty of possible tariffs. Even if tariffs are not imposed, contractors may inflate pricing to hedge against even potential tariffs. As always, when we put public works projects out to bid, we are required to award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder that is responsive to the bid. This requirement ensures that the city receives the best price possible. However, estimating how bids will come in has been difficult, and we have felt this impact on several of our recent projects. We are working hard to make sure that our project plans and specifications are detailed and our project budgets take into consideration all associated costs. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight, and I am available for any questions the City Council may have.
Thank you so much for that report. Any questions?
I just have a comment, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much, Brian. I'm really excited that we're able to check off some of our projects, which has been a goal of our city manager, is to start checking off. So thank you so much to you and your team for all your hard work. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other comments? Thank you so very much.
Thank
What
you.
a great report. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, city staff, and members of the public. My name is Melvin Rosales, Library Manager of the Murrieta Public Library. So today I want to highlight that National Library Week is coming up April 6th through April 12th. And this year's theme is drawn to the library. So it's an annual celebration that celebrates how libraries inspire curiosity, creativity, and connection in the community. So we're marking the week with a teen mini library contest. So teens put together a nice little diorama. So if you'd like to vote for that, it's going to be on display throughout Library Week. So please come on by and cast your votes. We will also have a special display and with interactive activities at our circulation desk, including a crossword puzzle, library scavenger hunt with a prize drawing, and an art activity drawing on the draw theme, right? To draw your favorite book character or what draws you into the library, and that will be added to our display. And I also want to highlight that it is the 26th anniversary coming up for the library. The library broke free, and we actually got our own city library back on April 10th, 1999, so 26 years ago, and that's great that it happened in Library Week, or National Library Week. So for those of you that don't know what we offer at the library, we continue to offer unique resources such as the Library of Things that you don't normally check out at libraries. Zip books shipped directly to your home and then returned to the library and added to the collection. E-resources and our seed library where you can check out seeds, grow them, and then return them to the seed library. We also have a variety of community spaces, including our multi-purpose lab, our heritage room for local history, and the Carol Carson Garden of Verses, which is basically space for learning, reflection, and connection. So many of these are made possible through federal grants through the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and also through state grants from the California State Library. Some programs that we also offer: story times for children of all ages, our summer reading challenge to make sure kids keep reading through the summer, a lunch at the library. We partner with the Murrieta Valley Unified School District at their summer meal site to provide library programming while they provide summer meals for children throughout the summer. And Library for All, a series of programs for patrons with disabilities of all ages. We also offer our Teen Advisory Council, passport services, and notary services. So please come on by and get those done here at the library. So these programs basically make a lasting impact to the community. We had a 4-year-old come up to our staff and tell us that Storytime gets 2 thumbs up and a check mark. So we really love that. A patron came by and also said that when speaking about our pollinator garden, when I think of libraries, I think of gardens, because who wouldn't want to read a book in a beautiful garden, right? So some of the impacts of our programming. Some of the numbers back in 2024, you'll see that we've checked out 380,000 items and returned 204, and you must be wondering, how are they checking them out and not returning them? Well, actually, we have a partnership with the Riverside County Library where they can check out materials and return them at those other locations. So what that tells us is people from surrounding communities come to our library for the programs that we offer and check out items and then return them back at their home libraries. So another highlight is 175,000 visits to the library. So got a lot of traffic going in and out. 350 programs with 13,000 attendees, which is great. Our staff is so innovative and passionate about serving the community. 54,000 reference questions answered, and that's like, can you help me do a resume? Can you help me find a job? You know, can you print this out for me? So it's really needed services, and about 13,000 public computer sessions. And my last slide for tonight is highlighting the new chapter. The new chapter for our kids is coming, the Children's Library expansion. Mr. Crawford did have a mention of that. Our library, Murrieta Library Foundation, is kicking off a fundraising effort called Growing Minds, Growing Spaces. And so for those of you that don't know, the Children's Library expansion will include a multi-purpose room dedicated strictly for children's programming, so we don't have to turn away families in overcrowded programs, expanded space for collections, study collaboration areas, interactive learning, and an outdoor garden. So the library and the foundation invites all members of the community to be part of this growth and invest in a once-in-a-generation expansion for Murrieta's children. Help us build the future and bring this project to the finish line. Donations of any amount truly make a difference. All you have to do is scan that QR code right over there, and we also have flyers in the lobby if anybody is interested in supporting the project. And it will take you to the foundation's website and their GoFundMe page. And various donor levels will offer various levels of recognition, but really every contribution counts. It's really a community effort. And in closing, I want to say that as we celebrate National Library Week, we reflect on 26 years of service to the Murrieta community, and we're reminded that people are truly drawn to the library for knowledge, connection, and growth. With the Children's Library expansion on the horizon, we have an incredible opportunity to build a space where every child can learn, imagine, and thrive. I invite all of you, our entire community, to be part of this chapter. So together, let's bring the vision to life and create a library that grows with Murrieta's future. Thank you, and that's the end of my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I don't have any question. I do have a comment that we have a lot of seniors in our community that we're blessed to have. And some of them are very challenged technology-wise, especially on computers. Yeah. And they were thrilled to find out that the computer classes and learning how to use a computer and online, and they're thrilled it's coming back. So thank you so very much. I know they're very excited.
Yes, absolutely. We have a program series for seniors for learning how to use a computer, and we just got a Public Library Association grant that has a 96-inch TV installed in our lab. So We're probably going to have Super Bowl parties. No, I'm just kidding. But learning about how to bridge that digital gap for our seniors.
Well,
yes.
I know they're thrilled, so thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Why are you looking at Ron? Oh, no. Thank you so much for the report. This is exciting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. I am here just to once again give you an update on what is going on in Murrieta. We have a lot of events that are happening in April. So first, we have Tour de Murrieta. That's happening this weekend, April 5th and 6th. Now, that's going to be in downtown Murrieta. So if people are driving by and they're wondering, why is there an increase in traffic maybe? Or if they just see a lot of people riding bikes around town, well, it's because Tour de Murrieta is in town. And races start at 8 a.m. on April 5th and 6th. And then the following weekend, we have the Firefighters Barbecue. Who Loves Barbecue? If you're watching on Facebook, well, come on down to Town Square Park because the firefighters will be cooking up some tri-tip, and I believe council might be, some of you guys might be serving, so you might run into them as your servers, but that's going to be happening at Town Square Park, so there will be live music, a fire cadet muster, and as well as vendor market and games for the family. Now, because we do have Tour de Murrieta happening this weekend, the B Street Station Park will be closed, and that also means the pickleball courts will be closed. So if anyone is wondering why the courts are closed on Saturday, it is because of a Tour de Murrieta. And then we're going to be having some maintenance happening at those courts. You guys are all looking at me like, wow. So we are going to have maintenance happening on Wednesday and Thursday. So that's April 9th and 10th for the pickleball courts. That is just to have some temporary fix. And so it will also be closed as well. So if anyone who loves pickleball is listening, they will be closed on April 9th and 10th. We have a couple community workshops coming up as well. We have a general plan update workshop, and that is happening on April 7th at 6 o'clock here in the council chambers. And that's really just to learn more about key updates that are happening to Murrieta's general plan. So we are inviting the public to come out, learn a little, and also, provide some feedback and help guide some of those revisions and shape our community's vision. And then we have, this one is a popular topic, a housing workshop that will be happening April 15th at 3 o'clock, again, also here at the council chambers, and it's just to learn more about why Murrieta is seeing a more multifamily and affordable housing development. And I also put a link up there. If you are interested in learning more right now, you can go to murrieta.gov/housing laws. And as always, I cannot leave without telling people we are a connected community. So if you want to connect, go to murrietaca.gov/connect.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. That concludes my administrative updates.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Excellent information. Now we're going to move on to governing body, commission, and committee reports and announcements. It's the opportunity for City Council to provide a brief report on conferences, seminars, commissions, committees, or board meeting attendance. Governing body announcements is the opportunity for the City Council to provide miscellaneous reports and announcements. Reports shall not exceed 5 minutes. The City Clerk will use the computerized timer. We are going to move on to Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This past week, the Southwest Elective Collaborative met, and if you're unfamiliar what the collaborative is all about, it's where all 5 cities, the county, and governmental agencies that deal with transportation and our state representatives, Kelly Ciarto's office and Kate Sanchez. And for the last year and a quarter, we've been meeting, collecting data with regards to traffic congestion and high-density development. The group met to discuss our strategic plan of action when we all go to Sacramento in June. We'll be split up in 3 different groups, and we will be tackling Sacramento full force on the expectations of Southwest Riverside County. So I know many residents are frustrated with the traffic And I will tell you, I'm also frustrated. I'm frustrated with the high-density development just like you are. But we have to use our voice and we have to fight for what is right in Southwest Riverside County. So it's important that our residents know that council, not just in Murrieta, but regionally, we are working together to be a voice in Sacramento. With regards to my governing body announcements, you'll see my list of meetings that I attended, which you can view on our website. But there's one particular meeting I like to share with you. We have a nonprofit called Cultivating Inclusion. This is a public-private partnership that allows the special needs adults to learn a trade, and that is gardening. We have a nonprofit that's 100% based volunteers. The city has dedicated a parcel to this organization. They've been in effect, I think, for about 15, 18 years. 100% of everything that is planted is picked, and it is donated back to our food pantries, not just all in Murrieta, but regionally. It is a phenomenal program. I want to thank Rotary of Murrieta and International Rotary, where I facilitated a meeting to talk about an international grant. So the one thing about this piece of property is that the city of Murrieta does not allow permanent infrastructure on this property, and they need upgrades. The special needs adults have difficulties bending down into the garden, so they want to build up, I can't remember what it's called, thank you, raised garden beds. And then also they need a water system. Phil Pauley, who's our director of Eastern Municipal Water District, came out, toured the facility, and he's going to be bringing his entire team in to bring in new infrastructure, water infrastructure for this garden. Rotary, with their international grant, is going to apply for a grant for them to have additional plants, trees, and some infrastructure such as fencing around the property. So it is really, truly, this is one of the areas that I love about being an elected official, is to be able to bring organizations together for quality of life for Murrieta, and this particular project is definitely about quality of life. And so I'm just really thankful for Murrieta Rotary, Eastern Municipal Water District. And one of the four-way tests of Rotary is, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And definitely this project definitely builds goodwill and better friendships. And will it be beneficial to all concerned? And absolutely. So if you are interested in touring Cultivating Inclusion, they are adjacent to Town Center off of Alta Murrieta and Murrieta Hot Springs back in the corner. So I really encourage you to take a little tour and see what they have done with this piece of property. So that concludes my governing body announcements, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Stone. Councilmember Holliday, shall I skip you?
Yeah, you would like to, because you're highlighted in my announcements. I had no governing body reports because my meetings are always the first Monday of the month, and we haven't had that yet.
Yeah,
but in my announcements, you can see the meetings that I attended, but I wanted to share with you one special one. I went to the Safe Family Justice Center fundraising event this last Saturday. Yeah, Saturday, I think it was. And our mayor volunteered to ride a horse, a real horse, a wooden horse. And I have a video, if we can we run that video? There we go. Look at that style. and I especially like the finish. Here it comes. And so I appreciated her being a good sport. Councilmember Stone was the auctioneer for that evening, and she did a phenomenal job. Actually, I think she has another career that she could embark on, like she doesn't have enough hats to wear. It's a great organization. It was a great event, and I'm glad to see that they raised a lot of money. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, I think, Council Member Holiday. Councilmember Lavelle.
Thank you. Just got a couple. None of my committees met, so I have no reports for the committee tonight. 3 events that I went to, the Murrieta Market Nights. If you guys have not been to a Murrieta Market Night, this is the time of year I love most about Southern California, and having the extra daylight and the amazing weather. It's certainly an amazing thing to be part of. It's every Thursday that we have council, so at the first and third Thursdays. I don't know what time it starts, but I usually go around 6 p.m. and it's a great time. Lots of great vendors, lots of great food. Then I went to the medical leaders lunch with Councilmember Holiday and Stone. Lots of good updates for the area with the amount of providers and I guess the continuity of care that's being provided in the area. But the most significant update was the expansion of Inland Valley Hospital. Although not directly related to Murrieta, that's going to be a great addition to the area that will provide great relief to Rancho Springs, Temecula, and my hospital, Loma Linda. We are underserved in beds in this area, and anything helps, and so I'm glad to see that open. I think they said first quarter 26 will be when it opens, yeah. So that was great to hear. And then today for lunch, I joined Councilmember Holiday for a Army recruiter promotion at the recruiting station here in Murrieta. I'll probably say his name wrong, but it was Sergeant Avarak got promoted to Sergeant First Class. And I believe he had 20 years in. So nice little ceremony we attended today. And that's all I have.
Thank you so very much. In my disclaimer, I had heels on. Okay, nobody else ran with heels on, so I think I did pretty good. So start with my governing body reports. I attended the RCTC Budget and Implementation Committee meeting. There's nothing to report out. Councilmember Stone did report out on the Southwest Elected Leaders Collaborative meeting. Thank you, Councilmember Stone, for doing that. I also attended the Southwest Transportation T-Now meeting, and I want to highlight our Youth Ride Free. There are only 3 months left to take advantage of the current Youth Ride Free promotion from RTA. This promotion is available for individuals 18 and under and will continue through June 30th of 2025. This offer is available on all fixed routes, Go microbuses. This is a state-funded program, and RTA is currently identifying funding. We're hoping to extend it. It's a very popular program. And ridership is up. I also attended the Riverside Transit Agency Commission meeting, and there was nothing to report out on that. On my governor and body announcements, you can see, and they will be listed on the website. I did have the honor of attending the Murrieta Mesa High School Military Career Day, which was absolutely amazing. Every branch of government or of military was there. And there were many students interested in what they had to offer in the way of higher education and trade schools and what they could get. And some of these kids just are not interested in a four-year college. So it was a wonderful event. Also, the very next day, I attended the elementary school Alta Murrieta Career Day. Elementary kids came in and were interested in careers, and it was such a fun day. And I couldn't have done it without Christina and her team helping me out, so thank you so very much. I appreciate that. I had the opportunity to be a speaker at the SRCAR Women Who Mean Business event, and it was quite an experience to be able to tell my story, and they wanted to know how I got to where I am, and it was kind of fun to just go back and see how I did it. So it was quite an honor. I attended a few other things along with the Safe Family Justice Center night, the night at the Derby, and yes, I came in third place. But like I said, I had heels on, so I had a handicap. So you can see the rest of them on my on the website, and that concludes my report. So we will move on to public comment, non-agenda item. Any person may address the governing bodies on any subject pertaining to city business. Normally, no action may be considered or taken by the governing bodies on any matter not listed on the agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Madam City Clerk, do we have any public speakers request?
Rick Cortez.
Welcome. If you'd come up to this podium right here. Yes. Thank you.
After listening to these esteemed people, my statement seems kind of small. So it appears, or I have a situation whereby I've got a neighbor across the street that has some trees that are growing pretty big and they're dangerous. However, I'm not the one to make that decision. I would think I'm in the right forum here to make you make you all aware. Somebody else talks with hands here. But anyway, I've talked to the owners of the property, and they are in no way are going to perform maintenance on them. So consequently, we live, and it's on Adams Street. It's in Murrieta. And basically, what I'm afraid of is that the kids, they play in what's called, a parkway between these trees and the street. And they use it like a little bicycle ramp. And these trees are huge. They're over 40 feet tall. And so basically limbs, branches, whatever, fall. And so that's one of the issues with that property. Besides that property, there's a strip of land, and it has a culvert on it. And I believe it's city property. I'm not sure. Nobody knows. But in any event, this winters come with rain, fills the culvert with sand, dirt, debris whatsoever. And what happens is that it leaks out. It's completely filled the culvert. But good news was today they cleaned the culvert. So I'm not complaining about that. All I know is that when we have a good rain, it's going to happen again because they took the dirt out of the culvert and threw it aside. So basically, when it rains again, we're going to have it run down to the corner of Grandview and Adams. And here goes a bunch of, cars. It's dangerous. So I really didn't expect to have this kind of an audience. So, but I just wrote something that I'd like to leave if it shows the interest that I have in it. And the reason I was inspired was because what was happening in Pasadena and Altadena and Malibu. I don't want it to occur here in Murrieta. I'm too old to try to, renegotiate another home. So if I can leave this with somebody.
With the city clerk, you may do that, please.
Okay, will do. Well, that's all I had to say. And basically, my information is on this. If anybody needs to call me, I think it's for the community, not just for me. So whatever takes place will be for the community.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That concludes public comments.
Thank you. We are going to move on to the consent calendar. Approval of items 1 through 8. Items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and may be enacted by one motion and vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless specific items are removed from the consent calendar for separate motions. Are there any requests to pull a consent calendar item or abstain from voting? Oh, sorry, I didn't look. I apologize. Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'd like to pull item number 7.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, are there any members of the public requesting to speak on a consent calendar item?
Seeing none.
Thank you. Can I have a motion and a second, except for item number 7? I have a mover, Councilmember Holliday, and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Lovell. Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously 4-0 with the exception of item number 7, which was pulled for discussion.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on now to the consent calendar item that is pulled. 2 minutes will be used for discussion. Staff, may we please have a report?
You sure may. Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Before you this evening is the culmination of years of work in the homeless services field. Work that many of our residents may not even know is being done, and that's okay. That's a good thing. As each of you know, the City of Murrieta got involved in homeless services after the federal Martin v. Boise decision was passed down in 2018, which effectively tied the city's hands and prohibited us from enforcing quality of life ordinances. Rather than going the route of Los Angeles or San Francisco, our elected officials took immediate action to provide seamless homeless services with the goal of functional zero homelessness, defined as having a bed ready and available for any individual or family wishing to move towards housing sustainability through case management. There are not many cities in Southern California that have reached and maintained this goal, but we have. Since 2018, we have taken the following steps. We've received over $2 million in grant funding. We've implemented full-time street outreach. We've partnered with Project Touch for emergency shelter beds. We've dedicated full-time case management at the shelter. And something we can be really proud of, we've basically changed the entire dynamic of community policing regarding homeless services utilizing Measure T funds, which was passed by Murrieta residents. Currently, we have a team, a community policing team of 4 officers supervised by a sergeant. One of the officers is actually in the room here this evening, Officer Angeles. In addition to the CPT team, we were one of the first cities in Riverside County to implement what's called a Community Behavioral Health Assessment Team, CBAT, where we put we pay for a licensed clinical social worker that works for the county in a police car full-time with a specially trained officer to respond to mental health issues. Our teams are now partnering with other organizations here in Murrieta. We partner with Healthcare in Action for primary care physician services in the field. We also work with, and they are here with us this evening, work with an organization called Renewing Hope that provides street-level behavioral health services that help out our teams. And we also continue to utilize Care Solace, which was brought forward by this city council. And finally, we helped found the Regional Homeless Alliance, a collaborative of 5 cities in Southwest Riverside County. All that to say, there are 5 actions before you this evening that Ms. Lindsay Sisti will provide the details on. First and foremost, accept the encampment resolution funds totaling $6.6 million from Riverside County to the city of Murrieta to provide a comprehensive regional homeless services program that's going to last over 2 years. Number 2, approve an agreement with CityNet, the city's current outreach and case management provider, to hire up to 8 new street outreach and housing navigators that will cover the area of Murrieta, Wildomar, Menifee, and Lake Elsinore. Number 3, accept the Housing Assistance Prevention Grant Funds, HAP, grant funds in the amount of $144,000 that will allow us to provide rapid rehousing for the cities of Murrieta, Wildomar, and Menifee. Number 4, approve an agreement with CityNet to provide the rapid rehousing administrative services. And number 5, amend the current fiscal operating budget and appropriate those funds. It's important to note there is no matching requirement for these funds. Funding allows Murrieta to offset general fund costs for existing staff. Additionally, the goal does not change. We have been and we will remain committed to functional zero homelessness, not just in Murrieta, but in this entire region for this encampment resolution grant. So with that, I'm going to turn the details over to Ms. Lindsay Sisti.
Good evening, everyone. Lindsay Sisti, Assistant Management Analyst over Homeless Services. I'm going to give a quick overview of all the funding that is coming into our area, which we're very excited about. So I'm going to first start with our Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention funding. So it's HAP. We applied on behalf of the region for $144,000 in rapid rehousing funding, and we were awarded by Riverside County's Continuum of Care. This funding is to assist a minimum of 8 homeless households residing in Murrieta, Wildemar, and Menifee with securing permanent housing. We went through a competitive RFP process, and the selected contractor for this project is CityNet. The funding breakdown for transparency is as follows. Since it's a fairly small grant, there's $20,000 set aside for personnel. This is with CityNet to administer the project. $116,000 for direct housing support. So this is going to cover move-in costs, security deposit, rental assistance, and other associated cost of individuals being able to sustain getting into a permanent housing placement. There's a $7,000 admin. Admin is capped at 5% with this project. And as Brian mentioned, there's no match requirement from the city. It's 100% grant funded. The second project, the big one, is the Murrieta Creek Trail Encampment Resolution Project. So Riverside County applied on behalf of the region and was awarded $12.6 million from the state. Of that, Murrieta was awarded about $6.6 million to administer a portion of the project. As Brian mentioned, this project is able to cover most of Southwest Riverside County. We're going to be covering Lake Elsinore, Wildemar, Murrieta, Menifee, and unincorporated portions of Temecula. Again, this went through a competitive RFP process, and CityNet was also selected as the contractor for this project. Funding breakdown for the encampment resolution is as follows. So direct staffing is $2.9 million. This is both for city staff that are connected with this project in addition to the contracted agency's staff. Service coordination is $206,000. This is for vehicles and clothes and hygiene kits and all those little extra expenses that can come along with a project like this. Interim shelter is $900,000. This is to cover bridge housing, which I'll get into that in a second, and then additional temporary housing through Project Touch. Rapid rehousing as with the previous grant to assist individuals with getting off the street and out of shelter into their own permanent housing, and then prevention and diversion costs. This is like your bus ticket home or other creative solutions to get somebody out of homeless as quickly as possible without having to open them to a substantial program. Let's see here. So along with this project comes a full multidisciplinary team to support the unique needs and challenges of each client that we encounter. With this project, Murrieta is going to be overseeing the 8 full-time street outreach workers and the support staff who will be making referrals out to these other specialties as needed for the clients. This project includes both temporary and permanent housing supports. As you can see here, it's kind of the whole spectrum, the temporary housing with the bridge housing and transitional housing, but then the rental assistance, application fees, security deposit, the whole gamut, everything you might need financially to get into housing, along with the supports that come with this project. And of course, we're always looking to leverage other resources in our community, such as recovery beds, board and care facilities, affordable and other faith-based housing options. So with that, these grants will significantly enhance our ability to support those in need and create long-term housing solutions. I will turn it back to City Council. If you have any questions, we will remain here.
Thank you very much for that report. I'd like to bring it back to Council. We have questions. Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So can you tell us why Murrieta was chosen?
So since 2018, Murrieta, when we got involved in homeless services, it was us and Temecula at the time, just attempting to work together. We were very naive back then. None of the cities before Martin v. Boise had homeless programs. That was always considered a county social service issue. The federal court case forced our hand to start a homeless services program in order to be able to enforce quality of life issues. So we got involved, us and Temecula, and it quickly grew. We started having successes, finding shelter and other places for homeless individuals. Menifee asked to come on next, Lake Elsinore and Wildomar. And so we started working together collaboratively. Most of the cities in California, and I'm not talking just Southern California, all California, they work in silos. And it leads to what's called the squeezing the balloon approach. You know, if we have homeless here, we can send our officers into an encampment and they're gonna go somewhere else. Temecula, Lake Elsinore, Wildomar, nothing gets done, nothing gets solved. But if all the cities work together and come up with a seamless homeless services program, you start seeing successes. Riverside County has seen that. So in their last 2 cycles, they funded first Corona and the Riverside area, the riverbed there, Santa Ana Riverbed, and then they also funded on the second cycle, San Jacinto and Hemet. In both of those cases, the county managed all the funds. They gave some funds to the cities for admin costs, at most $1 million. This is unique, and this is the first time that they've given the bulk of the funding to a city to be the fiscal agent because of the level of success that we have.
And you and your team are to be commended for that, because I know your program is the model that everyone is using nowadays. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to pull this. This shouldn't be on a consent calendar. It should be, as I've told you, shouted from the rooftop. So we've got such huge success. I would also like you to talk about a little bit about the steps that you go through when you find someone that's homeless, with the health care that they receive, the documents that you provide for them, so that they can actually connect with programs that will help them. Could you talk about that a little bit?
I sure can. And cut me off if I start going long, because you know I could talk about this for hours. Typically, when we find a Murrieta resident that is unhoused, it's through either, there's a few different ways that we can find them. Our street outreach team, our police department is very active. And by that, I mean they want to solve homeless. They're not there just for the enforcement component. We also get a lot of residents' phone calls. We have a lot of businesses that call us and say an encampment's located on our property or behind our building. So there's a variety of ways that the call or the message gets to city staff. We can pretty much, with our full-time street outreach, be on the scene immediately. In most cases, within a few minutes, we can respond to a call, and we will go out and assess the individual. Assessing is sometimes a long, you know, sometimes it's taking a individual to a Burger King, buying them a meal, and going through their entire history of their life, because some people cannot live in a shelter. Some people, whether it's through substance abuse use, mental health issues, they cannot live in a congregate care or a semi-congregate care setting. Therefore, we need to find a different avenue for them. And it could be a substance abuse, it could be detox, it could be inpatient rehab, it could be mental health care where we have to take them to crisis stabilization first. So there's a variety, there's no one size fits all. It's never an easy thing. By and large, Murrieta is fortunate, and we're one of the only cities that have, again, a seamless system. So we can find somebody on the street, barring mental health, barring substance usage, we can get them to a shelter within an hour. Most cities, it takes weeks, sometimes months, to find them that shelter. We can drive them right there. Secondarily, we have case management at the shelter. It takes forever to get a person what's called document ready. In order to get any services, you need a social security card. Well, to get a social security card, you need a post office box. You need somewhere for the mail to go. They don't let you just put homeless down on your social security address. But in order to get that, you need to get a driver's license, because none of the homeless individuals have driver's license. They've been lost. Now, to get the driver's license, you need a post office box or an address. So it creates this incredible cycle of bureaucracy where every step of the way, they need to go and wait weeks in order to get those documents. So that's by far the most frustrating thing in order to get services. But we've been real fortunate because we've been able to bridge all of those things. At this point, as I mentioned earlier, we have a primary care street level group that works with us. We have Renewing Hope. That at this point, they meet, first of all, they go over to our shelter every week and assess people and get them on medications at the shelter. They can prescribe and they can administer medications on the street or at the shelter. I don't know of any other city. I talk to my counterparts all around the state. They do not have that level of access. So we have an amazing team. We have 4 police officers who are specially trained, who aren't there just to arrest homeless, but are there to get them to the resource that they need. Our officers have paid for meals. Our officers have paid for transportation. They paid for housing for some of these individuals. So we're fortunate. It takes a lot of work, and sometimes it's frustrating. It takes hours and hours, if not weeks. But we've found solutions to these things.
Like I say, you should be commended, your whole team, Lindsay, our police officers, your entire team, for being creative, for being compassionate, for being passionate about this problem to where we have 0 functional homeless. So I personally thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Listen, Brian, I've said this a million times, and I'm going to say it again. Thank you to you and Lindsay for all that you do. I just wish the state would facilitate the success that you have done, not just for Murrieta, but for this region. Just a couple questions. With regards to the $6.6 million for the Murrieta Creek encampment, have we cleared out the encampment?
So there's not just one encampment, there's multiple encampments. There's a few current ones down in our section of Murrieta Creek. You may get to see them on Friday if you come out with us. So there are some there. We have an agreement with Riverside County Flood Control, which you helped usher through, that provides reimbursement for us to clean up that area. So we do have one gentleman that is living down there. I believe he was just recently arrested. He's a hoarder. He likes to bring in a lot of things, including a pet headstone, if you watch social media.
Oh, he's the one that brought that in, okay.
He is still down there. He has made a mess. We are attempting, our next step with him is to go through the new CARES court process. We've done everything possible to help him. He's probably our hardest case that we've had in a long time, but we're going to continue on. So yes, there are still some active encampments down there. When we get started with this grant, we're going to spend a lot of time probably in Lake Elsinore, and there's a couple areas in unincorporated Temecula that we need to go to.
Okay, so the 6.6 million is just, it's for us regionally to tackle the encampment in Murrieta Creek.
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's talk about rapid rehousing. Rental assistance. How long do you provide rental assistance for somebody that's in a home or apartment? Is there a time frame?
So we want to provide the least amount of assistance we need to. So if we have somebody who's homeless and is able to get a job quickly and be able to cover their rent, maybe it's 2 months of rental assistance, but we also recognize there's other individuals that need a much longer period. With both the projects, the max is 24 months, but we are partnering with the housing authority. So for individuals who maybe don't have the ability to sustain income, we're gonna have the ability to bridge some of the clients to Section 8 vouchers or other affordable housing projects so that they don't return back into homelessness.
Great, thank you. And then the interim housing, will those funds assist Project Touch directly as well?
Correct.
Yes. And so the city of Murrieta gives Project Touch money. And obviously this is going to help mitigate that cost for the city because of this grant. Is that correct?
Correct. Now, the rapid rehousing won't go to Project Touch. They don't have that housing stock. So they are emergency shelter and transitional housing. So they'll continue to focus on those areas. But there's also other strategies that we will use, whether it be bridge housing, such as hotels, anything and everything, whatever it takes to get a person housed.
With regards to Project Touch, have they increased housing in Murrieta, or are they just focusing on Wildemar right now?
Have they purchased any new or rented any new? No, they
Yes.
have not. They have the same level of beds, both emergency and transitional throughout Murrieta, but they are looking at the other cities. So city of Wildemar has, I believe, approved a larger scale shelter for families. It's a beautiful facility on Grand Avenue.
Rendering.
They're concentrating their levels, all their funding up in that project. They are going to start looking at some of the other cities as well. We have some conversations going on with Lake Elsinore and Menifee.
And what about Temecula?
We're going to work in the unincorporated areas of Temecula.
Okay, fantastic. Again, I just want to thank you and Lizzie and your entire team. You have done such a phenomenal job. Words of saying thank you is just not enough.
Thank you.
But it's so appreciative of what you all have done since 2018. So thank you so much for your dedication. That concludes my comments and questions, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Stone. Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle.
Thank you. Yeah, to kind of echo what both my other colleagues had said, the county doing this is quite a statement. That's a lot of money for a program that's done a lot of things. And I'm very pleased with that decision, and I'm very excited for you and your program and staff that are taking on this. I have a few discrete questions. Can we go to slide 7 of what you had up there? So this is awesome to see this. Can you talk a little bit about the nurse, what types of medicines? I mean, you see this and you working in a hospital, you've had frequent flyers with like opiates and, methadone in the past, and you get the individuals that know that they can come and get that easy. That's not intended to be that, I assume.
So the nurse dedicated to this project, this is going to be through Healthcare in Action, so it's a leveraged expense through the county. They come out with a nurse practitioner, they have community supports, they are able to prescribe medication, Suboxone, injectable antipsychotics in the field, and meet the client where they're at. Yep.
Okay. And then the housing requirements. So once we place an individual in housing, are there requirements for them to be drug-free, alcohol-free, to be living there and sustain living there?
So the requirements of this grant are what's called Housing First. A lot of controversy going on around Housing First right now. Our shelter, the way we operate, is you have to be working on your housing sustainability plan. It's a 21-day program, can be extended as long as a person is working on their housing sustainability plan. We have people in various levels of recovery in our shelter. So we adhere to Housing First, but we are adamant that you need to be working towards your housing sustainability plan, and it's very difficult to do that if you're using substances.
Yeah, I get the delicate nature of this transition period. Just wanted to be clear with, this is not a free ride, do whatever you want.
Not at all.
It's truly intentional to help them help themselves.
Correct.
And then lastly, the grant funding source. Can you talk, do we know where the money came from other than the county, where the county, I assume the state, and then did it come from Fed?
So no, the encampment resolution funds come from the state government. So each county applies, or each jurisdiction applies for those funds. And so it goes down to Riverside County to administer the overall grant. This is just unique in that the grant coordinator is going to give a bulk of that money to a single city as the fiscal agent.
Again, thank you and congrats to your success, and hopefully this continues to resonate and capture other cities to be part of it, and they can also share in those success stories. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Working together is better, in my opinion, and you've proven that time and time again. And to echo everything that's been said up there, there isn't a better program out there. You are the program, and you have set a standard so high that if they don't start looking, they're going to be falling way short. And I'm very, very proud of all you've done, and thank you. The one question I get asked all the time, could you please explain in a small sentence or two, CBAT, because people do not understand that.
Sure. It's a community behavioral health assessment team. And this is, we pay for a licensed clinical social worker to ride along full-time in a police vehicle with a specially trained officer. So it's a full patrol vehicle. It is it's a Murrieta police car that arrives on scene. What makes it really unique, and Chief Henry could correct me if I'm wrong, but what's unique about our operations are when there is a behavioral health, someone's having an episode. It's not pretty. It tends to happen on the street. It tends to happen at, I've seen it in the senior center. I've seen it in a lot of different places. In the past, it did not end well because police officers, when they go to training, when they go to police academy, the strategy in years past was you secure the scene. You secure the scene by putting handcuffs on someone that has a mental health episode, and it's hard to watch. And it's hard for the police officers, it's dangerous for the police officers, and it's dangerous for the person having an episode. What has changed, and Murrieta is on the forefront of that, is we try to talk a person down first and foremost. Now, there are times when the scene needs to be secure for someone's danger or for the danger of others that are there. But the clinician has command of the scene. So, technically, if Chief Henry shows up at a mental health scene, the officer in charge and the CBAC clinician have command of the scene. Everyone else stays back and just make sure it is safe for others. We do everything we can not to put a person into handcuffs. We do everything we can to provide the family with the resources for after-action care. We have had tremendous amounts of success. But at the same time, it's also really good because if somebody is having anything from depression to a paranoid schizophrenia episode, we can do it safely and we try to de-escalate the situation as much as possible.
Well, I can tell you firsthand it works because that happened to a neighbor of mine in my front yard, and they were amazing. And they knew him, they knew his wife, but they handled him with such compassion that they were able to get him a bed at the VA, and he's passed since then, but their compassion saved that wife and that man his life that day, and I will be forever grateful.
Good.
So thank you. Seeing no further comments in the queue, I'm going to bring it back. Madam City Clerk, are there any public comments regarding this item?
Seeing none.
Thank you. I'll bring it back one more time to City Council members. Any discussion? I'd like to call for a motion and a second. I have a motion by Councilmember Stone and a second by Councilmember Holliday. Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 4-0.
Thank you very much for your report and for all that you are doing. We're going to move on now to our public hearing, item number 9. Public hearing for fiscal year 25-26, citywide user fee schedule update. We'll now move on to this public hearing. Are there any council members who would like to recuse themselves from this item? Did he recuse us?
I think so.
Okay, hearing none, seeing one. Staff, may we please have a report?
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members, members of the public. My name is Javier Carcom, I'm the Director of Finance, and to my left here is Ashley Lopez. She's our Accounting Supervisor, and together we are here tonight to present an overview of the proposed update to the user fee schedule for fiscal year 2025-26. And before I go into my slides, I just want to acknowledge the work of Ashley and also every member of every department staff that work closely with Ashley, identifying all the respective fees and charges for services to ensure that they're complete and accurate. So I appreciate the work that they have done during the last couple weeks. So tonight's presentation will provide a background on the user fee schedule and adjustments to the fees based on changes in the Consumer Price Index, also known as CPI. Ashley will discuss the proposed changes to the fees beyond the CPI, so for any other reasons that we're making an update, and for the most part, those are fees that we had either an oversight or they were excluded from the original study. but it's certain services that we're providing to the consumers. And so she will discuss those changes, including fee increases, new fees, exceptions to fee increases, and that is fees that doesn't change due to the CPI. We'll go over the estimated fiscal impact of the proposed fee update. And lastly, we will conclude with a recap of the recommended and subsequent actions for this item. The most recent fee study was adopted in March of 23, with the fees outlined in that study taking effect at the start of fiscal year 23-24 on July 1st, 2023. As part of that action, it was decided to increase fees annually by the lesser of the CPI or 5%. This approach is intended to be used between user fee studies, which are recommended to be conducted every 5 years as best practice. This will be the second time we are updating the fees based on CPI since the fiscal year 23-24 user fee study. It is considered best management practice to update user fees annually to account for the continuous increase in expenditures. Without annual fee increases, other general fund revenue sources will need to cover the cost of providing those services to the public, diverting funds that could otherwise be used to maintain or improve other services. Resolution 23-4653 approved the adoption of the fiscal year 23-24 user fee schedule, which includes the annual inflation adjustment, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation. The resolution states that city will automatically adjust the user fee schedule on July 1st of each year based on the CPI for the Riverside, San Bernardino, Ontario area, using the year-over-year percentage change from March to March, or 5%, whichever is lower. Last year, Ordinance 603-24 changed the measurement period to January to give staff enough time to prepare the user fee schedule for the required April council meeting, ensuring that the fees are implemented by July 1st in compliance with the 60-day waiting period for fee implementation. Based on the January to January timeframe, the CPI is 2.9% year over year. At this point, I will turn the presentation over to Ashley to discuss the proposed changes to the fees and those fees beyond the CPI adjustments.
Good evening, City Council. I will discuss the fees that are proposing to change other than the standard CPI. So we are proposing to increase library fee for 3D printing from 16 cents per gram to 35 cents per gram. The full cost calculated in the fiscal 23-24 user fee study was $1.33. So the increased fee will remain subsidized, but will also be comparable to other libraries in the region. Last year, a major change was made to the user fee schedule formatting. That during the formatting conversion, incorrect fee types were assigned to 2 fire fees. As a result, these fees will increase compared to last year, but they will remain consistent with the fees adopted in the fiscal year 23-24 user fee study. And so these are these fees listed here. Fire is proposing to add 3 hourly rates that were not included in the prior fee schedule. They are fire captain, 40-hour, fire investigator, and senior management analyst. The current fee schedule has tiers of fees for business inspections, with the last one being $419.64 for 22,000 plus square feet. We are proposing to cap this tier at 50,000 square feet and add 2 new tiers, one for 50,000 square feet to 200,000 square feet, and the second one for 200,000 square feet and over. The respective fees are increasing by $88 per tier. We are proposing to increase 3 planning fees. The first 2 fall under newspaper noticing. Standard average cost to the city is $450, but varies. We are proposing to increase this fee from $146.02 to actual cost. Property posting per sign costs the city an average of $320. We are proposing to increase this fee from $192.96 to actual cost. And then lastly, we are updating the fully burdened hourly rate for Deputy Director of Development Services based on fiscal year 25 salary and benefits data. We are proposing to add 5 fees for planning. The records clerk fully burdened hourly rate would be added to the division's fees. The conditional use permit listed here existed prior to the fiscal year 23-24 user fee study. It was inadvertently missed in the fee study, and we are proposing to add this fee back to the fee schedule. Planning provides plan check services to engineering fees that they are currently not collecting revenues on. We are proposing to add planning plan check fees to grading revision, improvements, and improvement revisions. Grading revisions is proposed to be charged at 1.5 hours of associate planner, and improvements and improvement revisions are proposed to be charged at 1 hour of associate planner. We are proposing to reduce fees for business license that include change of address, replacement of lost license, and name change. The fee for each of these, the fee was calculated based on staff time, but the processes have since been reevaluated and the time to complete the task has been reduced. For police, we are proposing to increase 1 fee for clearance letter with notary. The fee is currently $20, but before the fiscal year 23-24 user fee study, the fee was $50. It was reduced to only account for staff time spent on the task. The fee is the same service provided in another fee titled clearance letter, plus it also adds a notary certification. So we are proposing to charge this fee at the cost of the clearance letter plus the cost of notary. The cost of notary is listed under miscellaneous section of the fee schedule at $15. So the total proposed fee would be $33.25. Then exceptions. So the fee, it's in the proposed update were adjusted by the 2.9% consumer price index. However, there are some exceptions. Library has a self-service kiosk that does not accept or disperse pennies. So the proposed fee schedule includes a footnote that library fees will be implemented in 5-cent increments that will not exceed the published rate. The fee schedule will show the actual fee increased by the 2.9% CPI rate, so that current increases will be accounted for in future years. The user fee schedule includes fees set by the state of California, the county of Riverside, and other external agencies. The city collects and remits these fees to the respective agencies as mandated. These fees are set by the external agencies and will not change as part of this proceeding. Examples include mitigation fees and passport fees. The Downtown Application Fee Reduction Program provides fee reductions for certain development applications for projects within the Downtown Murrieta Specific Plan. The reduced fee for the Downtown Application Reduction Program will remain in effect as established by the 2018 resolution. I'll now hand it back to Javier.
Thank you, Ashley. So the fiscal impact of increasing fees was calculated by annualizing the revenue from charges for services across citywide between July through December 24. And then we annualize that number for the remaining of the year. Then we take that number, we multiply that by the 2.9% CPI adjustment. So with that, the projected fiscal impact is about $246,000. Assuming that activity remains consistent with the trends observed during that time period. While revenues are expected to increase, the cost of providing services are also expected to increase at a similar rate. So staff recommends conducting a public hearing and adopting the fiscal year 2025-26 fee schedule. For the next step, if the fees are adopted today, the updated fees will take 60 days to become effective and will be implemented on July 1st, 2025. With that concludes our presentation. Ashley and I were happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. I'm going to bring it back to council. Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, team, whatever time it is. So I just wanted to recap a couple things, and then I have a couple questions. So the reason for our fees, for our user fees, if we had no user fees, an individual that would use a service would technically be paid by all the residents of Murrieta through their taxes if we subsidize 100% through the general fund, correct?
That is correct.
And so the philosophy is that if somebody's using a service, they pay the cost of that service, whether it be a resident or a developer that's processing plans. And if they weren't using the service, there would be no cost to the city.
That's correct.
Yeah, so we're just applying the cost to the person that's using the service.
That's correct. So most of those fees are based on time and data analysis. So it's all based on the time that it takes to provide that service to that specific individual or firm.
Yeah, because we wouldn't seem equitable for a developer to come in and have the residents of Murrieta pay for their costs to apply for a development project. That makes sense?
Yes.
Newspaper noticing. This actually probably is a question for the city attorney. Did we ever, I know we talked about this once before, is newspaper noticing still required? Do we still have newspapers?
It is still required.
So there's been no change in that to where we can use an alternative form, a more efficient form of noticing. We still have to publish it in a newspaper.
For now, yes.
That is so insane to me. Get my stone tablet and chisel out so I can notify somebody. Great job on the presentation to both of you. Thank you for the information. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Holliday. Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know that this is no surprise. I've been very consistent for the last 4 years, and I'm going to reiterate my stance, and that is every year the cost of services keep going up, and it's such an oxymoron to me because the state is forcing us with mandates with regards to affordable housing, and yet the average new home coming to Murrieta is $900,000 for a 2,700 square foot home, just to give an example. And there comes a time where I believe we should not raise fees. I think that our residents, our investors, developers, as we keep voting for this, it's just getting out of control. I'd like to talk to our city manager about MOJ. Murrieta, Department of Efficiency, sir. I'd like for you to share, in the short time that you've been our city manager, the savings that you have implemented. And it's really important that our residents understand the value of you being our city manager. So can you just brag a little bit, please?
I'm happy to brag about our team and the work that they're doing. As part of our preparation for the next biennial budget, which will be presented to you in May, and you may recall earlier on, I think in one of our budget updates, you had requested that we take a look at our services and figure out where we can make adjustments, ultimately to remove some of our investments in lower value services and reallocate those to areas where we feel like we get a higher rate of return. So in this budget process, we've asked department teams to take a really close look, even after their preliminary budgets were submitted, which already reflected in most instances, the operational cuts we'd had to implement over the last couple of years. But despite that, our team members leaned into that and started looking at different ways we could do business at a lower cost. I believe the total of that list right now is probably north of $600,000, $700,000, but I think all in will be closer to $1 million by the time we present the budget. And that's not without sacrificing services altogether. In most cases, it's just altering the way we do things to try to save some money so that we can reinvest in those higher levels of services that our residents still want and deserve. So not my credit, though. It really, in all honesty, the credit goes to the team that is doing that work. That's not just the directors and managers, but the people closest to the work that help generate these ideas for how to do things differently.
But the leadership starts at the top, sir. And so take the compliment. And also, I want to encourage you to continue to dig and figure out, I'm going to challenge you to another $1 million. So, and I know that you're an out-of-the-box thinker, and I know that you can implement that. I want to thank our team. Ashley and Javier, you have a really hard job, and I appreciate all that you do for us. But again, my job is to fight for the people, and I'm going to continue to fight for the people. So thank you so much for your presentation tonight. That concludes my comments, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Stone. Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle.
Thank you. Quick question and clarification. City Attorney, the posting clarification. So if you do a public posting, a mail posting, you're also required to do a newspaper, all three?
It depends. It depends on what type of public hearing it is, what type of notice is required.
Okay. So it may require three, all three?
Sometimes you even have to post property if it's specific to a property, so
Okay.
yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I do have a question for you. I just want to clarify, we are strictly covering cost.
Correct.
I just want to make sure the public understood that. Thank you. Councilmember Holliday, you had an additional comment?
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on Councilmember Stone's comment. So when we do our next Nexus study, if we save costs and we do that Nexus study, those cost savings will be reflected in the fees through that next study, correct?
Yes, and again, the study should be implemented every other 5 years, and primarily is to account for any changes in processes. We might be implementing possibly new software to do, to issue permits, for instance, just an example, that will reduce the time, so the fees may be adjusted at that point in time to a lower amount. So that's the whole purpose of the study, to be done in every 5 years, to really reassess the way that we do businesses to determine whether or not there has been a change in the cost.
And so those savings will be realized.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Holliday. At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. City Clerk, are there any public testimony?
Seeing none.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to council to do any further comments. Seeing none, I have a motion to adopt by Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle and a second by Councilmember Holliday. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes with Councilmember Stone voting no.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 10. Formation of Community Facilities District 2025-1, Safety Services of the City of Murrieta. Are there any council members who would like to recuse themselves from this item? Seeing none, staff, may we please have your report? Come back. April Fools.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. So with the item in front of you tonight for the public hearing of the CFD formations, we're going to open the public hearing today, and we're going to continue the public hearing to the May 6th City Council meeting.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions? Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing. City Clerk, is there any testimony?
Seeing none.
Bring it back to council. I would like to call for a motion and a second to continue the hearing to the date certain, May 6, 2025, as recommended by staff. I have a motion by Councilmember Holliday and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle. Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 4-0.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 11, formation of Community Facilities District 2025-2, maintenance services of the City of Murrieta. Are there any City Council members who would like to recuse themselves from this item? Seeing none, staff, may we please have a report?
Good evening again.
Again, welcome back again.
Thank you. For this item as well, for the formation of Community Facility District 25-2 for maintenance services for the City of Murrieta, we are also opening the public hearing, and we're continuing this item for discussion to the May 6th City Council meeting.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. City Clerk, are there any public testimony?
Seeing none.
Seeing none, thank you. I will then, council, is there any deliberation? Seeing none, I will call for a motion to continue the hearing to the date certain of May 6, 2025, as recommended by staff. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle and a second by Councilmember Holliday. Please cast your vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 4-0.
Moving on to item number 12, formation of Community Facilities District 2025-3, Discovery Village of the City of Murrieta. Are there any council members who would like to recuse themselves from this item? Seeing none. Staff, welcome back again. May we have a report?
Good evening again. For the formation of Community Facility District 2025-3, Discovery Village of the City of Murrieta, the recommendation is to continue the public hearing to the date of May 6th City Council meeting.
Thank you very much. We'll now open the public hearing. City Clerk, are there any public testimony?
Seeing none.
I'll bring it back to the council. Seeing nobody would like to speak, I will call for a motion in a second to continue the hearing to the date certain, May 6, 2025, as recommended by staff. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle and a second by Councilmember Holliday. Please cast your vote. Thank you, staff.
Motion carries unanimously, 4-0.
Oh, you're coming back again. Okay. We're now going on to discussion item number 16. This is a non-public hearing. Staff, may we please have your report? And this is on the Fleet Vehicle Procurement Authority Ordinance.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members, and members of the public. My name is Javier Carcamo. I am the Finance Director for the City of Murrieta. Tonight, I will be presenting a report on staff recommendation to update the city's purchasing code. Section 3.08 of the city's municipal code establishes the regulation for purchasing goods and services at the lowest responsible cost. The code identifies the city manager as the purchasing agent and outlines his responsibilities. Currently, the purchasing code authorizes the city manager to approve or enter into agreements for the purchase of commodities up to $100,000. The code also outlines the various purchasing methods, including open market, formal and informal bids, cooperative purchasing, and exceptions to bids. Chapter 3.08.200 establishes the threshold and approval authority for purchasing materials and supplies over $100,000. Approval for these purchases must be awarded by the City Council to the lowest responsible bidder. This includes purchases such as construction contracts, furniture, machinery, equipment, and vehicles. Formal procurement options includes construction bids, requests for proposals, requests for information. Additionally, the city may participate in a cooperative purchasing program. Over the past few years, city staff has faced challenges, particularly with the purchase of public safety vehicles. Currently, formal procedures such as issuing an RFP or joining a cooperative purchasing program are time-consuming. By the time staff returns to the City Council for approval, the vehicles are often no longer available. This issue is compounded by inventory shortages in the automobile industry, especially for vehicles with very certain specifications. The market is also highly competitive at this point, and at times the city finds itself competing against other agencies, such as the county and other cities, to secure these vehicles. City staff has assessed the situation and identified opportunities to improve the timeliness of vehicle purchases. Staff recommends an update to the city's purchasing code, granting the city manager the authority to purchase fleet vehicles when the cumulative amounts exceeds $100,000, provided that no single vehicles exceeds $100,000, and the purchases align with the adopted or amended budget. This recommended ordinance update will enable quicker acquisitions and suitable fleet vehicles becomes available. Most importantly, the update does not increase expenditures, but streamlines the existing process to improve efficiency. Staff will continue to adhere to the current purchasing protocols and financial limits. And with that, the recommended action for council tonight is to amend Chapter 3.08 of the Municipal Code, granting the city manager authority for fleet purchases within the budget limit by adding Section 3.08.200.b to read as follows. Notwithstanding paragraph A above, the city manager or his or her designee may execute purchases orders or agreements in a form approved by the city attorney for the purchase of fleet vehicles when any individual vehicle purchase is not more than $100,000 and the aggregate purchase of multiple vehicles does not exceed the amount allocated for such purchases in that fiscal year is adopted as amended. And with that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for your report. At this time, I'll bring it back to council and Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle.
Thank you, Javier. The update, is this an authoring of an ordinance, or is it an update of a previous ordinance for the amount to be increased? This was created, or was it a previous amount that we're now increasing for the manager approval?
This new subsection is new.
Gotcha.
Sorry, Javier.
Okay, thank you. The section in there that mentions the local dealership preference, can you talk a little bit about that and how we've tried to accommodate those local dealerships?
Yeah, absolutely. So staff is still requires to follow the protocols as part of a informal bid process. They may contact local dealerships first to identify whether those vehicles are available within our city or our region, for that matter. There are some instances where vehicles are not even available within our regions, but when they are available, we would like to have the opportunity to get into commit into the purchase by issuing a purchase order. Of course, this has to be approved by our city managers if council approves the addition of this code. But as far as following the protocols in terms of finding or working with local dealerships still apply to this type of purchases.
Thank you. And I'm not sure if the local dealerships watch these meetings. They might have other things to do, but my request would be, if this is approved and when it's approved, we send this out to them as a notice. So if they have an opportunity to maybe prepare to accommodate the requests and needs of the city and can be competitive, we would invite them to be more prepared in the future for those types of purchases. That's all I have. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In the local purchasing code, do we give them an incentive or an advantage of?
Yes, the local vendors, they receive a 3% advantage of the price.
So if they're within 3% or less of the purchase price, competitive purchase price, we will give it to the local person at that up to 3% higher price and purchase from them if they can get the vehicles.
Correct.
Okay. And what in your history here have you seen as the largest purchase of a group of vehicles?
The largest.
So under this, the city manager could say, it's in our budget to purchase 5 new police cruisers. What would that number be typically?
For around 5 vehicles?
No, I'm just saying, how many vehicles have you seen purchased at once?
I've seen vehicles somewhere around 7, 8 vehicles at a time, primarily for our police department when purchasing the patrol vehicles, or what they call the interceptors.
7 or 8. Are there any other departments that purchase more vehicles than that?
Our fire department as well, they may purchase at time 3 or 4 vehicles at a time.
But that 7 or 8 is about the cap?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Holliday. Madam City Clerk, are there any public comments regarding this item?
Seeing none.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to council for further discussion. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Holliday.
I'm just thinking for the future, if we want to put another cap on this of, say, $1 million, that would be 10 vehicles less than 100,000. Because
of the unforeseen, consequences or hiccups, we can't predict what the future holds, and I'm not going to put a restricted purchasing on our city. I don't think that that's wise at all.
that's what we've had for decades.
You're saying open it up to allow the purchase?
I'm saying, yeah, I agree with the concept. I'm just saying, do we want, and I'm not sold on that idea yet. I just wanted to have the discussion of putting a larger cap on the group purchase.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, you can do that, that's fine.
I would want to look at that one with even more scrutiny to the local consideration if we did that.
What do you mean?
Like, if we're going to buy that many with that cap, do extra due diligence on the local solution for that.
Can you go back to that and preface that again, what the cap is?
So we historically, for the purchase of, let's example, police vehicles, they are likely now at a point where they have that many vehicles in a rotation where they need to replace somewhere between 8, 9 vehicles a time. So historically, we budget for that number of vehicles. And so that could be somewhere between $800,000–900,000 a year, for instance. With the cost of vehicles still going up,
right.
We continue to budget somewhere between $800,000–900,000 a year. But now the number of vehicles may be one less because just price continues to go up.
Right.
And I should mention that the way this is written, the other cap in there is that it has to be in the approved budget. So if the budget is $900,000 for the year, then the cap is $900,000.
Right. But again, if there's an unforeseen hiccup, our city manager is going to come back and say, by the way, even though we have this budget,
He would ask for a budget.
Let's just talk about tariffs here for a second. I mean, who knows what the cost of a vehicle is going to be with tariffs? But again, if our city manager needs to come back, let him come back. It's fine.
Okay. I thought I'd throw that out. Did you have a comment, Mr. City Manager?
Sure. It's worth noting that I think this is particularly valuable in situations where we have unforeseen needs, but as we develop our fleet replacement program, most of our needs should not be unforeseen. We should know approximately how many vehicles we're replacing every single year, which also gives us new opportunities in working with our local dealerships to say, hey, in 2 years from now, or 3 years from now, or 4, or 5, or 6, this is approximately how many vehicles we're going to need, and in some instances, even to commit to those purchases so that they can make plans well in advance. With that kind of a system in place, we should be relying less and less on bulk purchases of 7 or 8 in a situation where we need to act quickly because we found a dealership that has them and we need to jump, right? So from that perspective, a cap should not be nearly as threatening, although I certainly appreciate that costs can escalate and things like that. Our goal is to have these predicted well into the future and be planning well into the future and not really have to rely on something like this except for the truly unforeseen, which aside from something catastrophic where we lost a number of vehicles simultaneously, which would likely be at that point in some sort of state of emergency, which would enable us to do some unique things with purchasing, really should be okay. Either way, you will also see the budget every year and have an opportunity to evaluate that number and decide at that point whether you want to put some additional constraints on things just as an additional check and balance.
And also, Councilmember Holliday, I can't remember where, it was on the news where there were 3 police vehicles that were in a horrific crash. Yes. And so again, there could be some unforeseen hiccups in the future.
If this was implemented, we could have bought that fire truck with this, correct?
No, because no single vehicle can be over 100,000.
That was 100,000, I thought.
The fire truck?
Yeah, the recent one.
Oh, the backup one.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, the most recent one will still have to come back to you because it's actually at $100,000.
So if they'd given it to us for $999,000 or $99,000, yeah.
Yes.
That's funny. Okay.
Okay, do I have any more further discussion? Seeing none, I'm calling for a motion in a second. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle and a second by Councilmember Stone. Please vote. I'm getting there. There it is.
Motion carries unanimously 4-0 to introduce ordinance number 16-25, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Murrieta, California, amending Chapter 3.08 of the Murrieta Municipal Code, granting the city manager authority for fleet purchases within budget limits.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 14, discussion of direction of support for Tour de Murrieta. Again, this is a non-public hearing. Staff, may we please have your report? Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. I'm Leah Kolick, the Parks and Community Services Manager for the city. I appreciate the opportunity this evening to discuss a matter central to our community's vibrancy. The continued support for Tour de Murrieta, an event that not only draws top competitive cycling in California and beyond, but also plays a pivotal role in boosting our local economy. Now in its 20th year and proudly recognized as a signature event, the Tour de Murrieta has long energized our downtown core by attracting visitors who fill our hotels, dine at our restaurants, and contribute to our local commerce. However, as the operational demands and the associated staff services required during the event rise, the current in-kind support is increasingly challenged to meet the full cost. Tonight, I invite you to consider our existing framework and explore sustainable options that ensure we honor both the legacy and the future growth of this cornerstone event. Expanding on this discussion, we can also examine how a refined support model might serve as a blueprint for other community events and nonprofit initiatives facing similar situations. I would like to now introduce Recreation Supervisor Laura Frasso, who will review this topic in a little bit more detail and discuss options for a pathway forward.
Good evening. So due to the Tour de Murrieta being a professional cycling event that is sanctioned by USA Cycling, the Saturday and Sunday routes are quite large. They cover a lot of area, which often puts them at a cost disadvantage when it comes to signage, volunteers, and overall traffic control. Staff realizes that the Tour de Murrieta is a treasured city event. It's important to the community, and we believe that the council would like the event to continue based on previous conversations. What we are seeking today is direction on how we may help the Tour de Murrieta in continuing. So we have a few options that we're bringing to you. The first option would be to charge at full cost recovery the $12,008.56, which is after the $10,000 in kind that the Tour de Murrieta, because they are in their 20th year, is able to receive. Second option is to reduce the indirect costs of the Public Works invoice for approximately $6,383.21, which kind of goes in line which you guys have done the last 2 years. And three would be to create a new signature event tier level to provide in-kind sponsorship of potentially maybe $15,000 for events that are lasting more than either 15 or 20 years, depending on what you guys would like to do. We have the invoicing, which was on the previous slide, sorry. For this year, the 2025 Public Works' bill was $12,225.36. The police department's bill was $9,783.20. Again, the $10,000 in kind that they are entitled to, and then that leaves the $12,008.56. So we would like some direction on what you as council would like to do at this time, and we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. I'll bring it back to council. Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle.
Thank you, Mayor Warren. I can't remember, is this the same race that I got first place for the council race?
The one you cheated?
Yeah, you
the one who
cheated. He cheated.
Yeah, my memory must be bad.
Yeah.
I had a beagle on my lap. No, this event is special to Murrieta for sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it is the longest standing signature event we have?
Yes.
Okay. My thoughts would be creating a fourth tier would codify, our commitment going forward in the future to have something that is growing with the event, hopefully, and can hopefully get in front of the costs as they increased as we move forward. The other two options, I think I guess I view them as Band-Aids for the costs as they exist. I view the fourth tiered as a more permanent option, but that's just my thought for now.
I'll bring it to Councilmember Holliday.
If I'm not mistaken, that was my proposal last year that failed. What's the longevity of the other events?
Susan G. Komen Susan G. Komen this year will be in their 7th year. The Murrieta Rod Run this year will be in their 12th year. The Field of Honor will be in their 17th year, and then the Tour de Murrieta being their 20th year.
And I also want to say it's a rare privilege that we have both of you presenting. So thank you for coming tonight. What was the invoice to Tour de Murrieta for the last 2 years? Do you have that?
I do have this one for the last 2 years. So in 2024, we had come back to council and got direction from the council to bill from Public Works $6,600 and from PD $9,380. This year, Public Works bill is $12,225 and the police department's bill is $9,783.
So what was their net last year?
I don't think I have it added together. It was, 15.
Less than 10.
Yes, so the Tour de Murrieta paid the city $5,980.
And do you have what 23 was?
I do. So Public Works paid charged $5,418, and the police department was at $5,600. Now I will note that was before the increase in kind of charges all the way around. So that's why it was significantly lower. The race course has not changed at all in all of these years. All of these years.
And what was the amount they paid to us that year?
$1,019.
So went from 1,000 to 5,000 to, if we adopt the tier 4 level, to 7,000. Have we spoken with the Tour de Murrieta people about their ability to absorb these costs?
We have, and a member of their organization is here in the audience as well, Ernie Sanchez.
I would love to hear from him.
Can we continue here first?
Can we, before we have Ernie come down, we're gonna
Thank you.
discuss. Ernie, Mr. I'll bring you down in just a second, okay? Go ahead. Are you finished, Mr.? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam
Councilmember Stone.
You said Field of Honor, Rod Run, Susan G. Komen, and
the Tour de Murrieta. So we have currently four signature events. Yes.
So let's talk about the Field of Honor. The Field of Honor is facilitated by Rotary, and that is an amazing program that our city has. The children come from elementary schools to do an education on our military. We honor our military. We are a military community. It's 100% volunteers that provide this 1 week of service. It is absolutely amazing. The Rod Run brings people from out of Murrieta. And so those, and I don't know what the percentage is that the guests come from out of Murrieta, but I'm going to assume it's a large amount that spends money in our community, whether they stay at a hotel, whether they're eating or shopping in our community. Susan G. Komen, that is a wonderful signature event that advocates early detection for breast cancer. Again, people come from out of the community to stay at our hotel, shop and eat in our community for that day. The Rod Run is 2 days. Field of Honor is 1 week. Susan G. Komen is 1 day. So now I'd like to ask Ernie a question. So Ernie, can you come to the podium? I have just one quick question for clarification.
I would have known I'd be speaking and would have wore a tuxedo.
You look just fine. Come over here, please. Your day is, your event's 2 days, correct?
April 5th and 6th, correct.
And statistically, how many participants come from out of the city of Murrieta, out of the state of California, and even out of the country that comes and spends a few days in the city of Murrieta? What percentage can you educate our council and our guests?
Our event consists of approximately 800 participants by the time registration closes, which is this Thursday at midnight. As of today, there are participants from 13 different states and 4 different countries registered for the event. Tonight and the next 72 hours will be busy days for registration since people procrastinate, they check the weather, and they're just waiting to see if it's gonna be a sunny weekend before they commit, especially since we end on Sunday and Redlands Classic begins 3 days after in the city of Redlands.
So based on the participants from 13 states, from, you said 3 countries, how many, what is the percentage of people coming to Murrieta from your registration? What is the percentage? 80%, 70%, would you say?
I would say less than 8% from Murrieta.
Less than 8?
Less than 8 are from Murrieta.
Or less from 8 are from Murrieta?
Yes.
So you're talking about 92% of your participants are coming from out of the city of Murrieta?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. My colleagues may have other questions, but if you want to take a seat next to Leah, that would be great. And I will tell you that for me, the Tour de Murrieta is an economic driving force for our community. There is absolutely no doubt about it. One other question, Ernie. Are you in a financial position that you could offset this expense between $7,000 and $10,000?
From there or from here?
Why don't you come back up here?
You know, it's a difficult question to answer, and I'll tell you why. This isn't the first time that I've been present at City Council discussing the same subject. And as you have seen from Ms. Frazo's numbers, the cost of doing business with the city, it just keeps getting higher and higher.
Right.
Could it be absorbed for this year? Sure, it could be absorbed. We're 3 days away from an event. What do? Cancel today? Let the Murrieta Hot Springs Resort know that they're booked to capacity, but yet those people will have to cancel the rooms. Let the Holiday Inn Suites know that they're full to capacity for our race and that they'll have to cancel. Let the Mill, let Wine Ranch, let them know that an event's not happening. I can't do that. You know, yes, we have to absorb the additional $7,000 for this year, but I can tell you that it's not sustainable. The surprise invoices that appear every year, except from the police department, that being a retired chief myself, I question how their bill can stay the same for mileage, gas, benefits, overtime that we pay for Murrieta PD, yet Public Works continues to increase and increase. And I've gone to
private parties that may be interested in the business and they're not interested in doing the plan. So yes, we do rely on Public Works, and without Public Works, this event doesn't happen. So can we absorb the $7,000 if that is what council eventually chooses to do for this year? Absolutely, because I cannot cancel an event 3 days before the event closing.
So I have a question for our city manager, even our city attorney. Is it possible that Ernie can put together a substantial volunteer base to offset some of what facilities maintenance is doing, and maybe just have somebody just kind of review, making sure that the description of the tasks at hand are completed, and that takes away some of the burden on the city? So if he were to bring in another 30 volunteers and do a lot of the work that facility maintenance is doing that he can do, is that possible?
I think it's always possible to revise the distribution of work. I think we already have a pretty robust partnership with things like traffic control. There's a certain component of public safety that would always require the presence of police. And I think there are components of the traffic control setup that are really ideal for people like Public Works that have particular training in that area. I think we could always revisit exactly who does what in an effort to right size the in-kind contribution from the city and the burden to the organizer to make it work. In part, that's what this conversation is about. Before we do that, aligning with the expectations of council, given the public benefit, the economic benefit, and the need, of course, to right-size costs to the city. So once we have direction from council, I think we could continue to have that conversation.
So I think it's really important, obviously not today, moving forward, that we have those detailed conversations. John Lavelle, our council member John Lavelle, and our city manager and Ernie, we've had discussions of actually making this event the premier event of the city of Murrieta because of the economic drive. I truly believe Murrieta could be the #1 bike race in the state of California if the city of Murrieta were to become Ernie's partner in this event. And so I would like to continue those conversations even after tonight as well. What can we do? And I would like to, in regards to Councilmember Holliday and Councilmember Lavelle, instead of doing a 4th tier, I would like to make the Tour de Murrieta the premier event of the city of Murrieta. That concludes my comments and questions, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Before I go on to council again, I have a couple of questions. When is the proposed cost given to each signature event? How much time are they given prior to the event so they can figure out their fees, their budget, the cost? How far in advance do we give them an estimated cost of charges?
It depends. I would say it's a case-by-case basis depending on the signature event and depending on which departments are part of invoicing. The special event committee meets monthly with the exception, I would say, of November and December. So I would say we attempt to get it to them, I would say 2 weeks before would be the closest. If it's a new event and they have no idea to the fees, it's usually a few months before. If it's a repeater event, then usually it's, you know, the invoices is going to be pretty close, so it's a little later.
Okay, and I find that as a business person, I find that not acceptable on my end. And the reason I say that is because costs have obviously gone up across the board. And I do believe that we owe our signature events as much time as possible to know what their hard costs are and how much they need to raise on their own to meet those costs. So that even if we add in an extra level to 15,000, costs are still going to rise, and they're still going to keep coming back to us. And if they don't have a proper amount of time to do their due diligence, then shame on us. Not you particularly, being shame on us, but not giving them the time to do their job correctly, and try and get more sponsors and try and think about ways to raise their fees without losing their participants. I think that's important. I think that's step one. I really think that that would go a long ways to solving some of these misunderstood costs. Personal opinion only. I think today we need to give direction to our staff on how we're going to handle this year's event, and I do believe that we need to bring this back as a workshop to make recommendations and figure out what we're going to do. Because if it's 15 this year, 20 next year, 30 the next year, this is not going to stop. And costs are rising. And we are doing this on the backs of our taxpayers. And we need to be fiscally sound on how we send our money out and give it out. And our nonprofits are amazing. And our signature events help this city. But we need to be fair across the board. That is my opinion. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll bring it back to council. Mr. Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How did we come up with the lowered Public Works dollar figure previously?
It was at a council meeting.
We just randomly picked a number?
No, I believe it was from 2023. I think the number 6,600 had come up, and when they had asked Public Works Director Bob Mailing, like, where do you think the fee would be the following year? I think he had mentioned that the fees would likely not go down, they would only go up. So from 5,400, he had, I think, estimated 6,600. Do you recall that as well? So that's where that number came from. So last year, I believe 6,600 was the number that we charged from Public Works. So it was reduced from a higher number.
Can you back to the slide that shows the costs currently? Yeah, that one. And I completely understand, Ernie, and I agree with Mayor Warren. If you had known 9 months ago what the costs were going to be, you probably would have structured things a little differently.
We would have structured differently or canceled the event.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just the bottom line. Is
those
it
become the
or is
two
it not
options
affordable anymore?
Yeah, exactly. I agree also with Mayor Warren, and I think we need to bring this back at a future council meeting, to look at the whole structure of signature events. I like Councilmember Stone's idea. I think I would modify a little bit. Instead of having tiers based on longevity, I would have tiers of events based upon their importance to Murrieta, and I agree, I would make this a tier 1 event. And a tier 1 event would get more assistance. Oh, that was the other question I had. I don't know that anyone's going to have the answer to this because I just thought about it, didn't give you guys any notice. Do you know what we subsidize the Murrieta Market Nights on a weekly or a per event basis?
That's not our department, so I would not know that.
Do we have any staff here that would know that? Javier? Anyone? Mr. Mailing?
Before we bought the Meridian barriers and put them out by hand, we were paying temporary traffic control company $2,400 an event to come out and set up traffic control for those events. City went and purchased 9 Meridian barriers costing over $100,000. Now we currently pay Public Works staff overtime for the day of the event twice a month, probably equaling, I would say $1,500 an event to have people come out and set up all the 2 days ahead of time, no parking signs, place the barricades, the detour routes, the actual Meridian barriers, come back at 10 o'clock at night, work till midnight, have those loaded up and taken off. So probably, it's in excess, I'd say, of probably $1,500 per event at least.
$1,500 per event twice a month, barring any rain.
Twice a month, 24 events.
52 weeks a year, or 26 times a year.
$30,000+ a year.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. Sorry for putting you on the spot.
Anytime.
That's all the questions I have.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem LaBelle.
Thank you. Ernie kind of touched on this. Even with a year runway of notice for the fees, there is an amount that this does not make sense. Can you talk any on the entry fees for the racers versus like the Redlands Classic or any of the NorCal races?
Absolutely.
We've increased entry fees. Definitely, we saw some expenses occurring, right? Agencies get raises, the bills get higher. We have to pay what the price is. Our fee to compete per day is about $56 a day for the athlete. There's only so much you can charge an athlete before it's not going to be cost effective for them to participate.
Do you know what the Redlands race charges?
The Redlands race is an invitational. It's subsidized by the city at a price of $90,000 just for in-kind services to the nonprofit that runs that event. Combined with my former employer of Yamava Resort, they have a pretty significant budget of $32,000 in-kind donations to make this community event happen. So their event's a little different in regards to they are strictly a professional invitational event, where we are an amateur and professional combined event that is classified at a different tier.
Okay. And my only other, I guess, comment is this event, although also being the longest standing event we have, it's a little different. It behaves a little differently economically for the city as any of the other events. Now, the other events, they do drive economic development and they bring resources, but this being a multi-day event, and you know, these bicyclists, the bikes aren't cheap. They don't have cheap hobbies, and we have bike shops in town. I mean, some of the bicycles are upwards of $10,000. So I think this one, knowing that the revenue it brings in from 92% outside of Murrieta, I think that's something we should consider in these discussions when we bring it forward. And my other question, I guess, for city manager is, we do our partnership with Newman Hospitality Group is a formal agreement, and it's a revenue sharing agreement, correct?
Yes.
Would that be something, if this were to get, even though it's only once a year, if it were to warrant that type of arrangement that would help facilitate the further investment from the city?
Yeah, I think council really has broad discretion on how to partner with agencies to put on these events that have both community and economic benefit. That could be through some sort of an agreement with profit sharing. Of course, that assumes there's profit.
Yeah.
I think it turns out often that these are more cost-sharing events. But however you wanted to organize that to try to capture the benefit that you believe they provide, I think we're able to take that as policy direction and go that way.
Okay. And then, do you know if the city of Redlands has that arrangement, or is it strictly a in-kind and supportive function?
Are you referring to the $90,000?
Yeah, other than the direct, the sales tax dollars in that race week, is there any profit sharing, revenue sharing with the city after the fact?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. And then, can we go back to the recommendation slide? So tonight, we need to decide what we're going to do, how we're going to help, if we're going to help, and then if we're going to further the discussion in the future of what Councilwoman Stone had presented, the fourth tier or the premier title, whatever that's going to be deemed. I want to make that very soon, just so we know what the future, so we can give direction tonight on how we're going to handle this offset in front of us. But then also hopefully get very quick clarity on what that fourth option will be.
Okay, thank you. I see no further discussion in the queue from council. Madam City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
Patrick Ellis.
Hello, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. Patrick Ellis, tonight I'm here on behalf of Explore Murrieta. I did want to, I'll start off by saying, first off, I can't speak to my friend Laura Frasso right now. If you know, you know. But I wanted to give you some information that you should know that Explore Murrieta has been involved with helping to promote the Tour de Murrieta the last couple of years. But this year, and this is information that's probably about a week and a half or so old, but from the launch of our marketing for the starting on February 4th through about a week and a half ago, Meta and display ads have generated 652,000 impressions and 11.6 thousand clicks to the site. For context, we typically see 1.49% average click-through rate for Meta and a 0.46% average click rate through for display, but Tour Murrieta is landing at 2.11% and 1.58%, well above both benchmarks. And in terms of the newsletter inclusions that we've done, we've gotten click-through rates on that are very good. And as Ernie had mentioned, we were able to work with Murrieta Hot Springs Resort this year to get them involved. As you know, as professional athletes that are involved with this, it's not just the activity itself, it's the wellness, the recovery piece of that too. Murrieta Hot Springs Resort offers something in that arena that has never been available in this area before. So that association has been huge for this year's race. As well as Ernie mentioned, the Holiday Inn Express, we were able to make a connection there. Both of those properties have been sold out for weeks. And I don't think I need to reiterate to you all what the TOT just at Hot Springs Resort for this weekend will do based on a lot of those individuals who are staying here. So I really would consider doing what you can, because this is an event that really, I think, Ernie and his group have done an unbelievable job at getting it to where it is now and really doing it completely grassroots. But I think that we're just scratching the surface of what this truly can do. I do think that this could get to that level of a Redlands type race and really make a huge impact for our community on a huge level. So I really implore you to support this as much as you possibly can.
Thank you.
Casson Klein.
I'll take your lift up for 20 seconds.
I was going to say 2.
You're the numbers guy. It's add, not subtract. Thank you. Councilmember Stone, it sounds to me like what you described as maybe a fourth option, and it's something that I suggest. Sounds to me like this should be a joint venture, not another tier, and it should be specific to this event. And just so that no one says that I'm a hypocrite, because in years past I have stood up here in opposition to this, that was mostly entirely due to a lack of transparency from some of your predecessors. So I appreciate that transparency, and I commend Ernie and his team for what this has been built into. Councilmember Holliday, I very much appreciate you brought up market nights. Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle, I appreciate that you brought up the Newman hospitality, because again, and kind of along the lines of the transparency, we all know, maybe not publicly, of accommodations that the city has made historically for special events that maybe don't make it to paper. And I'm not going to cite those things. One event or a joint venture that wasn't mentioned by you is the soccer complex. And when that was brought to the city several years ago, I spoke in support of that. That was proposed as a true joint venture. And shortly after that, the city took on the burden, has remained the burden of the sole cost of the processing and the analyses that have gone on with that, to the tune of I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars. So there is precedent for you to make this a true joint venture, public-private. And it certainly, in my opinion, can be quantified not only by what Ernie has talked about, what you have talked about, but I would venture to say that not any of the signature events put more heads in beds than Tour de Murrieta. It's not taking away from any of the other signature events. They're absolutely wonderful and contribute to our exceptional quality of life. But if we're going to look at ROI, you can't argue it.
And I don't even think that you would need to do a fiscal impact analysis, which we often do for projects. I wouldn't even suggest that you spend that money on one of those or burden Murrieta, Tour de Murrieta with you. I can tell you I just had 2 of them done for a project. One of the proposals came in at $38,000, the other one came in at $14,000. So let's skip that. So I would encourage you to look into a 4th, not even another tier, look into a joint venture to where this goes away, that Ernie never has to sit here again and justify repaying the city $7,000, $10,000, $12,000, whatever it is, because you've got to understand and believe that the heads and beds and the other things are more than paying for what we're getting in return. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more public comment?
That concludes public comments.
Thank you very much. I'm going to bring it back to council. This was supposed to be a discussion item and provide direction to staff from all of us. I know before I get to that, for just a minute, please. But I'd like to ask the city attorney, is there something that we should be voting on instead of just giving direction before we move forward? I'm asking, yeah.
I mean, it depends on what direction you guys decide to take.
Okay.
There's been some conversation about bringing it back for fuller conversation, things like that. That wouldn't require a vote, but if there's something specific.
Okay, so we could take a vote at this time if someone proposed something. I just want to make sure we do correctly.
In fact, I was going to make the motion.
Okay.
Can you go to the slide that recommends the amount? And I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to make the motion that we invoice Tour de Murrieta $7,856. That's my motion.
Go ahead.
Might I recommend or ask that you include the 4th option in the motion to come back at a later date?
Come back at a later date for what?
To come up with a greater collaboration.
We have discussed that here. We've talked about a premier event. We've talked about actually partnering. The mayor talked about a workshop. So yes, but today, let's just talk about the money because his event is in a few days. And I say, again, my motion is let's invoice him for $7,856. It's just a little bit more than from last year.
Okay, Ron, you were in the queue first, and so we kind of jumped over him, so.
She's placed a motion on the floor, so that has to be dealt with. If there's no second, it dies.
Okay, is there a second on the motion? Okay, it has been seconded by John LaBelle.
I would propose a substitute motion. Yes, while $6,000 was the amount they paid last year, they paid $1,000 the year before that. My motion would be to charge half of the public works cost that's estimated for this year, which is a little over $6,000, and to increase the in-kind to 15, which should bring them down to $1,000 that they would pay the city for this year, and then bring it back to a discussion of what we're going to do with all of this at a future council meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second in a substitute motion.
No, wait. Look at the city clerk.
That's where I was headed over. Okay, thank you. I didn't think so.
You can change your motion to that?
Okay.
Or,
Yeah. Okay, I changed my motion to Councilmember Ron Holiday said. So in-kind donation of $15,000, half of the cost of the public works, which would accrue $1,000 invoice to Tour de Murrieta. That's my motion.
You want to second your motion?
I will second my motion.
Okay, and City Clerk, would you please repeat the motion?
The amended motion reads to charge half of the public works costs and to increase in-kind donation to $15,000 for this year and to bring back the item for a future meeting.
I have a first and a second that we agreed upon. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously 4-0.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you. We're going to move on to reconsideration. Madam City Clerk.
Any council member who voted on the prevailing side of the original motion may move a reconsideration to consider new information or correct inadvertent errors on a non-public hearing item at the same or the next meeting. At this time, are there any requests from the City Council for reconsideration? Seeing none.
Thank you. Moving on to council members' request to add or withdraw items. Now is the time for council members to request to add or withdraw items to future agendas. There will be no discussion on the request. A brief explanation of the request may be given. The merits of the item being requested may not be discussed or debated. Now, are there any requests from my colleagues?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I would like to concur with your comment of bringing the Tour de Murrieta back for a workshop at a future date, when it's convenient for our city clerk.
I thought we already voted on that. It was part of the motion.
Was a workshop?
Yeah.
Bring it back.
To bring it back.
Bring it back.
Then I withdraw.
And it's not just the city, not just Tour de Murrieta, the whole signature,
Okay, that's
the
fine.
whole thing.
So I rescind my comment.
Okay.
I don't know if I need to do this here, but I was going to ask, Scott Wiener introduced a Senate bill today that steps on more local control to have the city draft a letter of opposition.
That sounds consistent with our legislative platform.
Okay.
So if it already aligns with direction from council, we would do that automatically.
Okay, they just read about it this afternoon, so.
Thank you. Yeah. Hearing none? Okay, there are none. With no further business, we are now adjourned. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.